The 19th International Conference on the European Union, Turkey, the Middle East and the Kurds came to its conclusion at the European Parliament in Brussels today. Turkish broadcasting regulator RTUK imposes record penalties on opposition channels over coverage of protests against candidate Ekrem İmamoğlu's detention. Human rights organizations tell Turkey to ensure peaceful assembly and press freedom. The Syrian Democratic Forces, or SDF, have released a report showing the construction of new Turkish military bases in Syrian territory, as well as the mobilization of Turkish military equipment and personnel into Syria. Learn more with Media News. The 19th International Conference on the European Union, Turkey, the Middle East and the Kurds was held at the European Parliament, Brussels, on the 26th to the 27th of March. Politicians, lawyers, researchers and journalists attended panels to discuss the issue of Turkish policy today. Speaker Tunca Bakarhan, co-chair of the Pro-Kurdish People's Equality and Democracy Party, the third largest party in Turkey, said that his party was ready to operate in favor of a peace process inside the National Assembly of Turkey. He also said that Devlet Bahçeli, the leader of the far-right Nationalist Movement Party, or MHP, was taking initiatives, but that President Erdogan himself must participate. For Bakarhan, the peace process is at an early stage. "We want concrete steps," he said. "We want all the political prisoners to be freed, and we do not want trustees to be appointed to replace our democratically elected mayors." Kurdish leader Abdullah Öcalan's call for the laying down of arms was intensively discussed. Professor Joost Jongerden from the Netherlands declared that Öcalan's step forward should be answered by the Turkish state. Öcalan's call actually refers to a parallel process, the disarmament of the Kurdistan Workers' Party, or PKK, and the end of the armed struggle, and the democratization of Turkey. "Without a democratization of Turkey, it's unthinkable that PKK will disarm," said Jongerden. Jonas Sjöstedt, MEP for the Left Party in Sweden, said, "The most important thing Turkey can do is to become a democracy, to accept freedom of speech, don't imprison mayors, to release all political prisoners. That's an absolute precondition. As long as that does not exist in Turkey, the accession to the EU is not on the table." 15 human rights and media freedom watchdogs published a joint statement calling on the Turkish state to immediately stop attacks on peaceful protesters, cease the targeting of journalists and news channels, and halt repression of freedom of speech online. The rights watchdogs include Human Rights Watch, PEN International, Amnesty International, and Article 19. The NGOs noted that, following the imprisonment of opposition mayor and presidential candidate Ekrem İmamoğlu, tens of thousands continue to participate in overwhelmingly peaceful mass protests across Turkey, marking the largest demonstrations in over a decade, and that Turkish police have responded with unlawful and indiscriminate force. On top of this, journalists have been arrested and deported, and online platforms have faced censorship. The human rights organizations called on the Turkish government to respect freedom of expression and assembly. They wrote, "The government must immediately cease its attacks against peaceful protesters, stop targeting journalists and news channels, and halt its crackdown on online speech." We also urge social media companies to take immediate steps to restore access to blocked accounts containing protected speech, while implementing necessary measures to ensure continued accessibility of their platforms. As of the 26th of March, almost 2,000 people have been detained during the protests, according to the Ministry of the Interior. Turkey's Radio and Television Supreme Council, or RTUK, has imposed a series of severe punishments on several opposition news channels for their live coverage of the protests that erupted following the arrest of Istanbul Metropolitan Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu. RTUK member İlhan Tashi announced the decisions on social media, describing them as the heaviest sanctions in the council's history. The channels sanctioned include SEC TV, Hulk TV, Tele 1 and Now TV. They are accused of inciting public hatred and hostility through their broadcasts, which covered both the initial arrests and the subsequent rallies organised by CHP leader Özgür Özel. The sanctions range from multiple programme suspensions to temporary broadcasting bans and substantial administrative fines. RTUK is Turkey's main regulatory body for radio and television broadcasting, established to ensure compliance with national broadcasting laws. It has considerable powers to impose fines, suspend broadcasts, or even revoke licenses. In theory, RTUK's mandate is to promote ethical and legal broadcasting. However, many local journalists have accused it of increasingly using these powers to silence critical media, particularly those seen as opposed to the current government. The Syrian Democratic Forces, or SDF, released a report on Thursday, the 27th of March, detailing the construction of new military bases in Syrian territory by the Turkish military. The report shows that Turkey has continued to mobilize near the Karakuzak Hill, the western bank of the Euphrates River, and the village of Hasan Aga, southeast of Manbij. Despite efforts to establish a ceasefire across the whole of the Syrian territory, which have been supported internationally, the report shows a continued militarization of the region by Turkey. Turkey already operates more than 200 military bases in Syria, in which tens of thousands of Turkish soldiers are stationed. Nevertheless, SDF drone footage shows the construction of new military bases, and footage captured by mobile phones show that these military bases are being fortified, often at night time, by armoured personnel carriers, trucks and tanks driving on public roads. However, none of these vehicles appear to show the Turkish flag, neither when crossing into Syrian territory nor when stationed at these new military bases. The SDF claims that the primary objective of the construction of these military bases is to strengthen Turkey's occupation of northern Syria for the long term and deepen it geographically.